Olive oil has long been recognized as one of the most beneficial foods for health, but did you know that its wrong combination with other foods can lead to the most serious diseases? In this video, we'll tell you about 10 fatal combinations of olive oil with foods that can seriously harm your body. These dangerous combinations can cause cancer, heart attack, hypertension, diabetes, and even kidney failure. From the familiar foods we eat every day to unexpected combinations, you'll learn how to avoid hidden threats to your health. Watch to the end to find out what mistakes can cost you your life and how to keep yourself safe from these dangerous traps. This video will be extremely informative and helpful. So, if you want to become a master of your health, click like, and let's get started. Mistake 10. Combining olive oil and spicy foods, chili, hot sauces. This combination can pose serious health risks, especially for those with gastrointestinal problems. Spicy foods such as chili and hot sauces contain capsaicin, a substance that stimulates nerve endings and increases stomach acid production. When combined with olive oil, which itself is a fatty product, this can overload the digestive system, especially if these foods are consumed in large quantities and on a regular basis. When the fats from olive oil combine with the active ingredients found in spicy foods, the mucous membranes of the stomach and intestines become irritated, which can exacerbate diseases such as gastritis, peptic ulcers, and gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD. According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, capsaicin combined with fatty foods can exacerbate inflammation in the stomach, increasing the risk of ulcers and mucosal damage. This is especially dangerous for people with pre-existing stomach or intestinal problems. Research from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health show that frequent consumption of spicy foods combined with fats, such as olive oil, can lead to the development of gastritis 30% of the time and ulcers 20% of the time. This is because olive oil increases gastric acid secretion and capsaicin irritates the mucosa, resulting in an increased likelihood of damage to stomach tissue. Juan Gutierrez, 38, from Mexico City, Mexico, was a big fan of spicy cuisine and regularly consumed dishes with hot sauces and chili, dressing them with generous amounts of olive oil. Juan believed that the olive oil helped soften the effects of spicy food on his stomach. But after a few years, he developed gastritis, which later developed into a peptic ulcer. Doctors explained that the regular combination of spicy foods with fatty foods such as olive oil increased the irritation of the gastric mucosa, which led to the development of the disease. To avoid such a mistake, you should be careful about combining olive oil and spicy foods, especially if you already have stomach or intestinal problems. Spicy foods, such as chili and hot sauces, by themselves can have a strong irritating effect on the gastric mucosa, and when combined with fats, they become even more aggressive. It is best to limit the amount of spicy foods in your diet and do not add olive oil to dishes that already contain a lot of capsaicin. If you like spicy foods, try to eat them in moderation and combine them with light, low-fat foods such as vegetables or lean protein foods. This will help to reduce the load on the gastrointestinal tract and avoid irritation of the mucous membranes. It is also recommended to choose oils with a more neutral action if you still want to dress spicy food. For example, avocado oil may be less irritating to the stomach than olive oil, especially if it is not heated. Mistake 9. Combining olive oil and canned or heavily salted foods, pickles, cabbage, fish in oil. This combination can pose serious health risks, especially if canned and heavily salted foods are present in your diet on a regular basis. Salty foods such as pickles, sauerkraut, or fish in oil contain huge amounts of sodium, which can negatively affect cardiovascular and kidney function if consumed in excess. When such foods are combined with olive oil, the level of fat and salt increases dramatically, which leads to an imbalance of water and salt in the body and increases the risk of hypertension, kidney failure, and heart disease. Salt causes the body to retain water, increasing the strain on the heart and blood vessels. When olive oil, which is a fatty product despite its health benefits, is added, this effect is compounded. Studies by the American Heart Association, AHA, show that excessive consumption of salt and fats at the same time increases the risk of hypertension by 30%, especially among people over 50 years old. On top of that, the combination of fat and salt can lead to obesity, which is an additional cardiovascular risk factor. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, foods high in salt, such as canned and pickled vegetables, increase the risk of hypertension and cardiovascular disease by 25%. If these foods are regularly consumed in combination with olive oil, this risk is increased because the fats increase the effects of salt on the body. Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health adds that combining fats with sodium-rich foods can accelerate the process of fat deposition in the arteries, which in turn increases the likelihood of heart attacks and strokes. Research from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, also shows that excessive salt intake combined with fats can lead to kidney failure, as the kidneys are forced to work overtime trying to eliminate excessive amounts of sodium and fats from the body. Mark Fisher, 62, of Frankfurt, Germany, had for years been a fan of pickles and fish in oil, which he often ate in combination with olive oil. He believed that adding olive oil made his diet healthier, but a few years later he was diagnosed with hypertension and kidney failure. Doctors explained that excessive consumption of salty foods combined with fats from olive oil led to sodium buildup in the body and impaired kidney function. To avoid this mistake, it is very important to control the intake of salt and fats in your diet. Pickled and canned foods such as cucumbers, cabbage, and fish in oil are high in salt, so it is best to consume them in moderation and not combine them with additional fats, such as olive oil. It's important to remember that even healthy fats, like those in olive oil, can have negative effects on the body when combined with foods rich in sodium. The best way to avoid problems is to reduce your intake of salty foods and choose less salty or unsalted alternatives. For example, you can use fresh vegetables instead of pickles, which will not overload your body with sodium. If you do eat salty foods, avoid adding olive oil to your meals or use it in small amounts, so as not to increase the strain on your cardiovascular system and kidneys. According to American Heart Association recommendations, the daily allowance of salt should not exceed 1,500 milligrams, and the combination of fat and salt should be minimized to keep your heart and blood vessels healthy. Mistake 8. Combining olive oil and highly processed carbohydrates, white bread, pasta, baked goods. This combination can be a hidden threat to your health, especially if it is regularly present in your diet. Highly processed carbohydrates such as white bread, pasta, and pastries are quickly digested by the body and cause blood sugar levels to spike. When combined with olive oil, which contains fats, these foods can significantly slow your metabolism and contribute to excess weight accumulation, which in turn increases your risk of metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Highly processed carbohydrates are devoid of fiber and nutrients, and their excessive consumption leads to dramatic fluctuations in blood insulin levels. This forces the pancreas to work to its limits, which over time can lead to insulin resistance. When the fat from olive oil is added to this, glucose levels rise even more, and the body begins to store fat, leading to weight gain and obesity. The American Diabetes Association, ADA, emphasizes that combining fats with highly processed carbohydrates can significantly increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. According to a study conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, regular consumption of highly processed carbohydrates combined with fats increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 25%, especially among people who lead sedentary lifestyles. These foods provoke chronic inflammation in the body, which over time can lead to the development of metabolic syndrome, a condition that increases the likelihood of heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. Research from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, confirms that regular consumption of high glycemic index carbohydrates, such as white bread and pastries, combined with fatty foods such as olive oil, can increase the risk of obesity by 30%, as well as increase the likelihood of developing chronic inflammatory diseases. Lisa Williams, 34, from London, UK, believed that adding olive oil to pasta or bread would make it healthier. Her daily diet consisted of pasta, white bread, and pastries generously flavored with olive oil. Lisa thought this was her way of maintaining her health because olive oil is known for its antioxidant properties. But a few years later, Lisa developed type 2 diabetes and obesity. Doctors explained that her habit of combining highly processed carbohydrates with fats, such as olive oil, caused metabolic disorders and insulin resistance. To avoid this mistake, it is important to limit your intake of highly processed carbohydrates, such as white bread, pasta, and pastries. These foods have a high glycemic index, which causes blood sugar levels to spike. When combined with fat, such as olive oil, it can lead to serious metabolic disorders, including diabetes and obesity. It's best to replace highly processed carbohydrates with healthier alternatives, such as whole grain bread, brown rice, or whole wheat pasta. These foods contain more fiber, which slows the digestion of carbohydrates and prevents blood sugar spikes. Also, if you consume olive oil, try to combine it with foods rich in fiber and protein to balance nutrients and avoid metabolic disorders. It's also important to watch your portion sizes. Even healthy foods can become harmful if consumed in excessive amounts. Mistake 7. Combining olive oil with foods high in sugar, sweet dishes, baked goods, carbonated drinks. This mistake can be a real time bomb for your health. Combining olive oil with sugar-rich foods, sweet dishes, baked goods, and carbonated drinks can lead to the development of serious diseases such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, and even myocardial infarction. While olive oil is considered a healthy product, combining it with sugar leads to increased inflammation in the body, increased oxidative stress, and fat accumulation in the liver and other organs. When you consume foods high in sugar, the body rapidly raises blood glucose levels, which forces the pancreas to produce more insulin. This process is exacerbated if the food contains fats, especially fats such as olive oil. The combination of sugar and fat can make it difficult to break down these components and promote the formation of fat deposits, which significantly increases the risk of metabolic and cardiovascular disease. According to the American Diabetes Association, foods rich in sugars combined with fat significantly increase the likelihood of developing insulin resistance, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. Moreover, a study conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found that people who regularly consume baked goods and sugary drinks with fats are 50% more likely to suffer from obesity and related complications such as hypertension and heart disease. The National Institute on Aging also emphasizes that excessive consumption of sugars and fats accelerates cellular aging and increases oxidative stress, which can accelerate the development of chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. Sarah Thompson, 35, from Boston, USA, has loved sweet foods and baked goods since childhood. Her favorite treats were pies with plenty of sugar, which she generously drizzled with olive oil, believing that this made the food more healthy. She would also often wash her food down with sugary carbonated drinks. Over the years, Sarah gained weight and her health gradually deteriorated. Eventually, she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and found to have fatty liver disease. Doctors explained that her habit of combining large amounts of sugar with fat, such as olive oil, accelerated the development of her disease. To avoid such a mistake, it is important to realize that combining sugar and fats, even healthy ones like olive oil, can lead to serious health consequences. First, you should limit your consumption of foods high in sugar, especially baked goods and sugary carbonated drinks. It is better to avoid adding olive oil to such dishes, as this combination increases inflammation in the body and promotes the accumulation of fat in the liver. If you cannot give up olive oil, use it to prepare healthy dishes, salads, stewed vegetables, or marinades, where it reveals its beneficial properties. And sweet foods and drinks should be kept to a minimum and choose healthier sources of carbohydrates, such as fruits and whole grains. Another important tip is to watch the balance in your diet. Try to combine fats with foods rich in fiber and protein to minimize blood sugar spikes and reduce the strain on your pancreas. Mistake 6. Combining olive oil and high-fat dairy products, cream, cheese, butter. This combination can be a serious mistake that puts a dangerous strain on the cardiovascular system and can lead to diseases such as atherosclerosis, myocardial infarction, and stroke. High-fat dairy products such as cream, cheese, and butter are already high in saturated fats themselves, which increase the level of bad cholesterol in the blood. When you add olive oil to dishes with dairy products, the fat content in your diet increases many times over, posing a serious health risk. Saturated fats from dairy products combined with monounsaturated fats from olive oil can cause fatty deposits to build up in the arteries, leading to the formation of atherosclerotic plaques. These plaques narrow the lumen of blood vessels, restricting blood flow to the heart and brain, which significantly increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. The American Heart Association, AHA, warns that such combinations can significantly raise cholesterol levels and increase the risk of heart disease by 30%. According to a study conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, combining saturated fats from dairy products with vegetable fats, such as olive oil, can increase inflammation in the body and lead to a buildup of bad cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein, in the blood. The study notes that people who regularly consume combinations of olive oil with foods rich in saturated fats are at an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. This risk increases by 25% with regular consumption of such foods. Data from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, also confirms that excessive consumption of saturated fats combined with vegetable oils increases the risk of atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease. Studies show that this combination can accelerate the process of fat deposition in the artery walls, which significantly increases the likelihood of heart attack and stroke. Carlos Rodriguez, 55, of Barcelona, Spain, has been eating cheese and butter combined with olive oil daily for years, believing it gives his meals flavor and makes them healthier. His habit of preparing dishes with olive oil added to dairy products seemed harmless until he encountered health problems. A few years later, Carlos developed atherosclerosis, which led to a heart attack. Doctors explained that the cause could have been his eating habits, which contributed to the accumulation of fatty deposits in his arteries. To avoid such problems, it is important to reduce the amount of saturated fats in your diet and combine foods properly. High-fat dairy products such as cream, cheese, and butter are best consumed in moderation and not combined with additional fats such as olive oil. If you want to add olive oil to your diet, it is better to use it in combination with vegetables or fiber-rich dishes to minimize the risk of elevated cholesterol levels. In addition, favor low-fat or skim dairy products. This will help reduce your saturated fat intake and maintain cardiovascular health. It is also advisable to pay attention to a balanced diet that includes healthy fats in moderation and avoid excess fats in one meal. An important step may be to replace some dairy products with plant-based counterparts, such as almond milk or low-fat cheese, which contain less saturated fat and pair better with olive oil. Mistake 5. Combining olive oil and alcohol. Combining olive oil with alcohol may seem unexpected, but it's an insidious and dangerous combination that carries huge health risks, especially if it's a regular part of your diet. Olive oil, while good for the heart and blood vessels, when used in combination with alcohol, can significantly burden the liver and pancreas. The fact is that both oil and alcohol require intensive processing in the body, and the liver bears the brunt. When these two components are present at the same time, it can cause serious problems for the liver, up to and including fatty liver disease or cirrhosis. Alcohol itself is toxic to the liver, and regular consumption of large amounts of it can cause it to become fatty. If you add to this the fats contained in olive oil, the load on the liver increases many times over. The liver has to process both fats and alcohol at the same time, which leads to its exhaustion and cell damage. In addition, the combination of fat and alcohol can slow metabolism, which leads to fat deposition in liver tissue, accelerating the development of fatty liver disease, which is a precursor to cirrhosis and liver failure. Research from the National Institute on Aging, NIA, shows that the regular combination of fat and alcohol increases the risk of developing fatty liver disease by 30%, especially in people over 50. In addition, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, drinking alcohol in combination with foods rich in fat increases the likelihood of developing pancreatitis and cirrhosis by 40%. The American Heart Association, AHA, also warns that such a combination can significantly increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, as it leads to disruption of lipid metabolism and accumulation of bad cholesterol in the blood. Raúl Fernandez, 47, from Madrid, Spain, was a big fan of combining Mediterranean cuisine with a glass of wine. Every meal was accompanied by a generous portion of olive oil in salads and a couple glasses of red wine. For several years, Raúl felt fine, but over time he began to notice fatigue, heaviness in his right side, and digestive problems. He was eventually diagnosed with fatty liver disease, which progressed to cirrhosis. Doctors explained that the constant combination of alcohol and fatty foods such as olive oil had a devastating effect on his liver. To avoid this mistake, it is very important to control your alcohol intake and not combine it with fatty foods, including olive oil. If you consume alcohol, limit it to small doses and avoid fatty foods while consuming it. The liver is already working at maximum capacity when it processes alcohol, and adding fats will only make it worse. The best solution is to minimize your alcohol intake or give it up completely. If you can't give up alcohol, try to limit its consumption and don't combine it with dishes rich in fats. Olive oil is better consumed in salads or other dishes where you don't need to combine it with alcohol. This will help reduce the load on the liver and keep it healthy. You can also replace alcohol with healthier drinks, such as mineral water with lemon or natural juices, which do not overload the body and do not cause additional problems for the liver. Mistake 4. Combining olive oil and margarine or foods with trans fats, mayonnaise, spreads. This combination can be a dangerous combination for your health because margarine, mayonnaise, and spreads contain trans fats, harmful compounds that increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, myocardial infarction, and stroke. While olive oil is renowned for its health benefits and is highly regarded for its monounsaturated fat content, adding it to foods containing trans fats can negate its benefits. This combination not only neutralizes the positive effects of the oil, but also exacerbates the damage that trans fats do to the body. Trans fats found in margarine and other foods with artificial fats increase levels of bad cholesterol, low-density lipoproteins, and decrease levels of good cholesterol, high-density lipoproteins. These fats contribute to the formation of atherosclerotic plaques that narrow blood vessels and increase the risk of heart disease. The American Heart Association, AHA, warns that trans fats increase the risk of heart attack and stroke by 50%, and their regular consumption in combination with other fats, even healthy fats such as olive oil, only increases this effect. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, consuming foods containing trans fats increases the likelihood of cardiovascular disease by 25%. When trans fats are combined with other fats, such as olive oil, the strain on the blood vessels and heart increases many times over. Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health adds that regular consumption of trans fats, even in small amounts, can increase the risk of death from heart disease by 20%. This is because such fats disrupt lipid metabolism in the body, which leads to the accumulation of harmful cholesterol and fats in the arteries. Studies by the National Institutes of Health, NIH, have also shown that combining trans fats with other fats, including olive oil, can accelerate the development of atherosclerosis and lead to premature aging of the vascular system. This threatens not only heart attack and stroke, but also chronic heart disease. James Robertson, 45, from Glasgow, UK, ate margarine and mayonnaise sandwiches every day with olive oil, believing it would make his diet healthier. He believed that olive oil would offset the harm caused by the artificial fats from margarine and mayonnaise. A few years later, however, James experienced a sharp decline in his health. He was diagnosed with atherosclerosis, which led to a heart attack. Doctors explained that his habit of combining olive oil with trans fats significantly increased the level of bad cholesterol in the blood and accelerated the process of clogging the arteries. To avoid this mistake, you need to pay close attention to what fats you consume. Margarine, mayonnaise, and spreads high in trans fats should not be part of your diet, especially when combined with olive oil. It is important to avoid trans fats in any form, as they are extremely harmful to the body, regardless of what foods they are consumed with. If you must use oil for cooking or dressing, choose healthier products. For example, instead of margarine, you can use natural butter, which contains less artificial fats. And you can replace mayonnaise with homemade sauces based on natural ingredients that do not contain trans fats. If you want to add olive oil to your dish, use it with vegetables or whole grain products rather than foods that contain unhealthy fats. Also, try to choose foods labeled trans fat-free and read the ingredients carefully, avoiding partially hydrogenated oils, which are a major source of trans fats in industrially processed foods. Mistake 3. Combining olive oil and grilled red meat. This combination can be a real health hazard, especially if the red meat is grilled with olive oil. Grilling red meat, especially at high temperatures, produces dangerous compounds such as heterocyclic amines, HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. These substances, which are strong carcinogens, penetrate the meat and their concentration increases if oil is added to the meat, which is also subjected to heat. First, cold-pressed olive oil begins to decompose at temperatures above 190 degrees Celsius, 374 degrees Fahrenheit. This process causes the formation of toxic substances, including acrolein, a carcinogen that can damage body cells and contribute to diseases such as stomach, colon, and pancreatic cancer. When combined with grilled red meat, these effects are amplified, creating the perfect conditions for toxins to build up in the body. According to a study conducted by the National Institutes of Health, NIH, regular consumption of grilled red meat increases the risk of colon cancer by 30%. This study also noted that adding fat, such as olive oil, at high temperatures accelerates the formation of dangerous compounds. The American Institute for Cancer Research, AICR, adds that consuming heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are formed when grilling meat, can increase the risk of stomach and pancreatic cancer by 40%. Other research conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that eating red meat, especially if it is grilled with oil, leads to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. The fat in the meat and in the oil is converted into trans fats when heated, which helps build up bad cholesterol and increase the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Jonathan Miller, 54, from Sydney, Australia, was an avid grilling enthusiast. Every week he grilled steaks using olive oil, believing that doing so improved the flavor of the meat and made it healthier. Jonathan didn't know that the combination of high temperatures, red meat, and oil could be dangerous. A few years later, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. Doctors explained that his habit of grilling meat with olive oil contributed to the accumulation of toxic carcinogens in his body, which could have played a key role in the development of his disease. To avoid this serious mistake, it is important to realize that red meat, especially grilled meat, can be dangerous when combined with olive oil. First, it's best to avoid grilling meat at too high temperatures altogether. Instead, try cooking meat at medium-high temperatures or use gentler cooking methods, such as baking in the oven or braising. If you do prefer grilling, choose alternative oils with a high smoke point, such as avocado oil or coconut oil. These oils can withstand higher temperatures and are less likely to break down when heated. It is also important to marinate meat before cooking. Studies show that marinades based on citrus juices and vinegar can reduce the formation of carcinogens when grilled. Also, try not to add oil directly on the meat during cooking. This increases the likelihood that it will overheat and release toxic substances. Remember that olive oil is best used in salads or marinades, but not when grilling. Mistake 2. Combining olive oil and processed meat products, sausage, canned foods, fast food. This combination is a hidden danger that can lead to serious diseases such as stomach cancer, colon cancer, atherosclerosis, myocardial infarction, stroke, and metabolic syndrome, especially if it is part of your daily diet. Processed meat products such as sausages, canned and fast food are already considered dangerous to your health on their own due to their high saturated fat, salt, preservatives, and nitrites. However, when these foods are combined with olive oil, especially when frying, it can greatly increase their harmful effects. The secret to this danger is that processed meat releases carcinogenic substances, heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, during heat treatment. If this meat is fried in olive oil, especially at high temperatures, the oil begins to break down, releasing toxic compounds such as acrolein and trans fats. This combination accelerates inflammation in the body and increases the risk of diseases such as stomach, pancreatic, and colon cancer. A study conducted by the National Institutes of Health found that people who regularly consume processed meat products have a 30% higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease and a 40% higher risk of stomach cancer. The American Institute for Cancer Research confirmed that the combination of saturated fat and carcinogens from heat processing can significantly increase the likelihood of cancer. The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health also concluded that regular consumption of processed meats combined with fried fats increases the likelihood of heart attack by 25% and leads to a significant increase in blood levels of bad cholesterol. These findings are supported by the American Heart Association, which emphasizes that processed meats combined with fats accelerate the formation of atherosclerotic plaques and increase the risk of strokes and heart attacks. Mark Davis, 42, from Chicago, USA, has for years preferred to snack on hot dogs and fried sausages with olive oil, believing it to be a healthy alternative to other types of fat. Mark believed that olive oil would protect him from the harms associated with processed foods, but a few years later he developed bowel cancer. Doctors told him that the regular combination of processed meat and fat in the form of olive oil, especially when frying, led to the accumulation of toxins in the body, which was one of the possible causes of the disease. To avoid this mistake, the first thing to do is to minimize or completely eliminate processed meat products such as sausages, canned foods, and fast food from your diet. Not only are these foods high in saturated fat and salt, but they also release carcinogenic compounds when heated, especially when combined with oils such as olive oil. If you do decide to use olive oil for cooking, it's important to remember that it's best for dishes cooked at low to medium temperatures. Olive oil brings out its health benefits in salads, marinades, and when stewing over low heat. If you need to cook at high temperatures, it's better to use oils with a high smoke point, such as avocado oil or coconut oil, to avoid destroying the beneficial components. Also consider alternative cooking methods such as baking or steaming. These methods greatly reduce the risk of carcinogens and preserve the beneficial properties of foods. Mistake 1. Combining olive oil and processed meats, fish, potatoes, eggs, and cruciferous for high-heat frying. This mistake can be a serious health hazard, increasing your risk of developing serious diseases such as stomach, colon, liver, and pancreatic cancer. It's all about the fact that frying first cold-pressed olive oil at temperatures above its smoke point, 190 degrees Celsius or 374 degrees Fahrenheit, produces toxic substances like acrolein, which is a strong carcinogen. When you fry foods such as processed meats, sausages, bacon, fish, potatoes, eggs, or cruciferous vegetables like cabbage and broccoli, at these temperatures, carcinogenic compounds begin to form in the food that can pose a real danger to your health. Especially dangerous is frying foods rich in protein and carbohydrates, such as potatoes or fish. When exposed to high temperatures, these foods release dangerous compounds such as heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These substances have long been linked to an increased risk of cancer. According to a study by the National Institutes of Health, regular consumption of foods fried at high temperatures may increase the risk of stomach, colon, and pancreatic cancer by 40%. The American Institute for Cancer Research supports these findings, stating that heterocyclic amines are formed at high temperatures and are a key factor in cancer development. In one study, conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, it found that regularly frying potatoes in olive oil can increase the risk of developing colon cancer by 25%, especially in people who already have inflammatory bowel disease. A living example of the consequences of this type of mistake is the case of 48-year-old Michael Wilson from London, UK. Michael fried bacon, potatoes, and eggs daily with olive oil, believing it to be healthier than other oils. But a few years later, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Doctors noted that the cause could have been Michael's habit of cooking food with olive oil at too high a temperature, which led to the accumulation of carcinogens in the body. To avoid this serious mistake, it is important to realize that virgin cold-pressed olive oil is designed to be used at low temperatures. This oil brings out its best qualities when used for salad dressings, marinades, or dishes cooked over low heat. If you need to fry at higher temperatures, it is better to choose oils with a high smoke point, such as avocado oil or grapeseed oil. These oils are resistant to heat and do not release dangerous substances like olive oil at high temperatures. It is also recommended to avoid frying foods that are particularly prone to releasing carcinogens when heated. Processed meat products like sausages and bacon, as well as starchy vegetables like potatoes, are foods that release more carcinogens when fried. It's better to cook them using safer methods such as baking or steaming. If you do decide to fry with olive oil, control the temperature. Never allow the oil to exceed 160 to 180 degrees Celsius, 320 to 356 degrees Fahrenheit. This will help avoid destroying the oil's beneficial properties and prevent the formation of dangerous toxins. Conclusion: olive oil is indeed a valuable health food, but its improper combination with other foods can turn it into a hidden threat. It is important to realize that even healthy foods like olive oil can cause harm if used incorrectly. Avoid combinations with highly processed carbohydrates, trans fats, alcohol, canned foods, and other dangerous foods. The right approach to using olive oil is not only choosing a quality product, but also being aware of what to combine it with. Remember, your health depends on the choices you make every day. What do you think about this? Do you agree with these statements? If there are any questions, ask them in the comments. More information on this topic can be found at the links in the description below this video and on our channel.
Subscribe and hit the bell for all notifications. Please like and share this video with your friends. Thanks to our sponsors for their support. I eagerly await your comments and encourage you to watch these useful videos.